All right, so we are down to our final session, Lessons from Being a Lifelong Entrepreneur. And I'd like to welcome on stage Rashmi Bansal, author and visiting professor, Ashoka University. Yes, big round of applause. And Ganesh Balakrishnan, co-founder of Flatheads. They will be sharing their valuable lessons and insights learned from being lifelong entrepreneurs. So over to both of you, and hope you all enjoy this fireside chat. Thank you.
There is no fireside, only chat.
Yeah. Thank you very much for inviting me here. I think we stand between you and the traffic outside, so hopefully this will be a fun session before you get on to that.
So what is a lifelong entrepreneur? I was just wondering about this aspect. So, when I wrote my first book, Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish, this was one of the questions I had, like, is an entrepreneur born or made? So after meeting those 25 people, I actually realized it could be either. So the first section of the book was called, the believers. People who knew very early कि मेरे को कुछ अलग करना है. And the second were the opportunists. They didn't really know it early, but after maybe they worked in a job for 5 years, suddenly एक bulb चमका कि, if I'm doing it for an employer, I can do it for myself. Or they got that confidence, they got that exposure. So I think we represent both sides of that. Like I didn't take the placement from IIM Ahmedabad. I just knew, like I did my summer training in an advertising agency called Lintaz, and I had to interview 300 women about the various qualities of detergents because Ariel and Surf Ultra had just been launched in India. So, that was my summer training project. I realized I can't spend the rest of my life doing this kind of work. So, due to various things which happened, I got exposed to Professor Sunil Handa. I was in the first batch that he took of LEM, which is, the class which has produced literally more than 1,000 entrepreneurs. So he planted that seed, and then I went to another course called ERI, where we sit on a beach and we reflect on our life. And at the end of it, I realized that I can't do this anymore. I can't do things to please other people. And the best thing is not to take a job, because people told me you can't be a writer as a profession. You can just do it as a hobby. You should work in Hindustan Lever, go home and write poetry at night. But then I said, if I do that, they'll suck all the creative juices out of my brain. There'll be nothing left. So I didn't take the placement. So in that sense, my lifelong entrepreneurship is a little longer than yours.
Yeah.
So tell me, when did you decide to become an entrepreneur?
So I've been part of the standard corporate rat race for the first 10 years of my career. Did the usual IIT, IIM, then went into corporate, then it was IIO at the end of it, so decided to leave. Was a consultant with Bain, worked in Honeywell after that, but then decided, and I was running entrepreneurial ventures inside large corporates as well, right? So they had these innovation initiatives that was running, creating a new portfolio of initiatives within the large corporate and stuff like that. And one thing that I realized when I was doing that, I did that for about 8 years out of the 10 years, right? And then said, this thing called, early stage startup and, running something is very different when you're inside the company versus when you're doing it yourself, right? Inside the company, it is, it just felt like a very non-starter, right? Right from day one, it felt like it was very process-driven. And guess what? The whole concept of early stage innovation cannot be process-driven, is at least the thought that I had in my head. And I found my co-founder there in Honeywell, and he was a design guy. So both of us sat
You
together.
didn't get thrown out of the company or anything. You left off your own design.
Yeah.
Okay. So I also did work for 2 years with the Times of India, which actually happened such that even after I dropped out of placement, one of the directors from Times of India came to the campus to recruit, and I had already worked there as a student, as a journalist. So he said, "Aap kya kar rahe ho?" I said, "Pata nahi." Then he said, "You come and I will design a job specially for you where you can be a manager and a writer." Nice. And I actually got this job, which I don't think anyone has ever had or ever will have. And I didn't realize then because the word startup was not existing. This word did not exist in 30 years ago. Yeah, I'm that old now. So 30 years ago, there was nothing called startup or entrepreneurship. So I worked with these two newspapers, which were very small, like they were called Independent and Metropolis on Saturday. So they were startups within the big times of India. And there was no fixed job what I had to do. So a lot of times I would just go to my boss and say, can I do this? Can I do this? As long as I didn't spend money, they were okay because they had a lot of free space in the paper. So I, for example, started the first dating column in India. Oh. Yeah. Before Tinder and all that, because at that stage I was thinking that, why can't we have, why do people have to meet straight for matrimony? Why can't the boy and girl directly get to know each other? So we had a column called Saturday Date, which I created. So I could do those kind of things because it was a pretty unorganized industry and it wasn't so process driven. Except for the actual production of the newspaper, everything else was pretty, if your boss liked your idea, 10 ideas may say 9 she'll say no and 1 she'll say okay do because fed up, okay, try kar lo. But it was there that I actually got a chance to try out my, test market, what I wanted to launch. I wanted to, when I used to write for newspapers as a student, they were all managed by old people. So I wanted to create something where young people had a voice. So the vice chairman, Vineet Jain, wanted to start a youth page. And he asked in the meeting who will take charge of this. Nobody raised their hand. So I offered to do it. So everyone was happy कि एक गंदा काम इसको दे दिया. But that page had a philosophy that we'll only publish things written by students. So of, for, and by the youth. Nice. And within a year, it became really popular. We had a first birthday party celebration. And then few of us were friends. We thought, why don't we start our own magazine? So we couldn't go to Vineet Jain and say, you start a magazine. So we started our own magazine.
I remember Jam, by the way, in college. That was one of the most popular magazines that were out there in the circuit here.
Yeah, but I didn't know I'm doing a startup. I just thought that I have to be a youth to start a youth magazine. If I do this when I'm 45, there's no point. And I already felt my youth is running out. Like I was 24 at that time. So I'd saved like around 50,000 because I was staying at home with my parents. So I'd saved this money because I wanted to go to Europe and, buy URail pass. Before you're 26, you get discount in URail. So I wanted to go for that. But then when this idea came, we thought, chalo, बाद में Europe जाएंगे, अभी ये कर लेते हैं. So with that 50,000, we bought one computer, 386 computer. We put it in the spare room of my parents' house. And that's how we started. So I don't know, today I hear a lot of people talking about ecosystem and this, that. I don't know what ecosystem was there. Today they're saying State Bank has a startup branch. I'm very skeptical. Like we went to State Bank Worli to start an account. They would not even talk to us, So I don't know whether there is such a thing as a startup branch. Now, see how far things have come.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started in 2013, which was a little beyond. And by the way, timing has been very interesting. Huh? So I graduated from my master's in the US in 2001 when the dot-com bust happened. So a lot of people who did not get placed went on to do their postgrad and then went on to do their PhD and then went on to do, become profs in universities because they just took the academic path there. Some people joined these small little companies that were completely out of favor. They were looking for, low-wage immigrant labor. So Indians were a good target. So they joined these small little companies called Google, Yahoo, you must have heard. All of them are investors now, angel investors in multiple startups. 2008 is when I graduated from IIM Bangalore.
But there was another crash, no, in 2008?
Exactly, same time, right? So I have to time it right when I graduate. So a lot of our batchmates who got PPOs never joined banks because the banks did not exist, right? They joined these little companies at that time called Flipkart, Myntra, right, InMobi. And yeah, so they are also angel investors in some of my startups. So that's how the dice rolls. Both times I was in corporate. Then 2013 is when I decided to take off and do this. I was a little late to the party, but the motivation was more, we were in B2B. We were doing the usual, rat race, and we said, yeah, the joy that we see whenever we used to interact with retail and whenever we used to see things happening was always, hey, how does a customer vote with their money, right? Ultimately, it's a vote. It's a hard-earned money that you vote for a product. The joy of creating something that a customer would use and then, give a feedback saying we love what you created, right? That creation was what was interesting. So it was more a choice to do this from the joy of creation more than anything else. That was the thought process. And when we got out, we actually didn't have an idea. We were sitting in a chai tapri outside Honeywell saying, yaar, kab tak chakki pisenge? Chal kuch karte hain. And my co-founder said, chal kuch karte hain to roz hi baat hoti hai. Kuch karke dikha. So I just went and put my resignation. And that's when he's like, oh my God, okay, let's do this. And that's how we got out, right? So it's been a tumultuous journey through the last decade as well. But I would say that joy of creation, that exhilaration of creating a new thing which does not exist and putting it out in the market and getting people to use it and adopt it and tell you that they loved it itself is something that motivates you to keep going, is what I would say. I mean, you've done a lot of that as well. And you've been a creator all the way through, right? So what's been your experience?
Yeah, I honestly think that entrepreneurship is really about creating your own destiny. I mean, there are some people who are going to create very large companies and large organizations, and others who may or may not do that, but they all created their own destiny. I mean, I could not imagine a life, sitting in meetings and getting 25 CC mails every hour. I don't know. That is the kind of what I've seen corporates mein hota hai. I was not, so open to doing other things. I just wanted to do that particular thing. I wanted to start a youth magazine. And I think because I got to test market it with Times of India for a year, pretty much we even got the product right without doing any market research, whatever, because we did something for people like ourselves. My target was a person who was about 18, 19 years old, I had a particular person in mind, but it was not aimed just at people who are just from the best colleges. We had a lot of students from unknown colleges. In fact, the engineering colleges were our main readers because a lot of them were stuck in distant places, NIT Surat, some Maharashtra, some Gobind, some, some obscure colleges. But they wanted to do more. They wanted to be connected. They wanted to be part of this community. So I didn't know what I was doing. I did it out of instinct. I didn't know I'm creating a user-generated platform. I didn't know I'm creating, the things we talk about today. I mean, we did it instinctively. Now, it did. The problem is what I've realized is that any industry I enter, after 10 years, that industry only starts sinking. Okay? So magazines have been running for 100 years. Then suddenly internet came and it became widespread. And the first people to desert the printed medium were the youth, right? And so then the same advertisers who were supporting the magazine, because print media is supported by advertising. 90% of the revenue is from ads. You don't get anything from the money that you get, sales money. So the same advertiser was paying me 50,000, 1 lakh for a display ad, full page ad, is telling me that Facebook mein main 5,000 mein mere ko itne clicks mil rahe. So that kind of, we went through a really big crisis for about 3 years where we tried to keep this thing afloat. We did a lot of other things. We used to do event management services for companies. We used to do other content writing. And I also had a chance to pivot it, right? Because one thing I could have done is I could have converted this into a youth market research agency. We had companies from Singapore and London who used to contact me as a youth expert, and we did a really big project for Corona beer who wanted to launch in India. Okay, so we could have pivoted it. Then I went to meet Rama Bijapurkar, who is my senior from IIM Ahmedabad, and I said, Rama, I'm planning to do this. Will you be on my board? So she said, yes, I will support anything you do, but I just want to ask you this question. Do you want to spend the next 10, 15 years of your life doing market research for Coke and Pepsi and Corona beer, or you want to do something more meaningful? Like, you're a writer, why don't you just, And I don't know, I think somewhere I realized that, yeah, I will have a much more meaningful life and make better impact if I just be a writer. Because by then I had, published the book Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish. So I chose not to pivot it. I said, okay, fine. Maybe the measure of success is you pivot something and then you make it so many $1 million and you sell it. But then I thought that I have only one life to live. So I will choose not to pivot it. And we shut this thing down after 15 years, running for 15 years. So, yeah, and I mean, I don't know, like I used to feel like when I used to talk about it also, I used to feel like crying at times because, you know, like it was 15 really crucial years of your life, right? But I still get messages from people, like I'll read one message I got recently from someone. So if someone says, okay, you didn't really make enough. In fact, in the end, we had to pay the money back to the bank because we had taken some loans and, you know, we had some credit line and all that. So we had to take our personal money and pay it back. But then, you know, I think the choice I made was right. But once in a while, I get such messages like this boy has written. His name is Yusuf Sheikh. So he's written, even after 20 years, our Jam magazine is still being missed. This is a discussion in my hostel group. We passed out in 2003. Wow. And in case you somehow have access to the subscriber list, Vishal was the second guy from our extremely remote college in Maharashtra who had subscribed to Jam. So I think somewhere we made a memorable impact on people's lives. A lot of people who worked with me, who did their first job with me, like today they're journalists, they're in advertising, they're making movies. So people who were in engineering, they came and they did, you know, whatever internship or they worked with us and then they went on to become creative people. So I just feel that everything has a lifespan. Even I have a lifespan. I won't be in the earth forever. So trying to run something which is not, like, does anyone read magazines today? Yeah. But very less. I mean, pehle har ghar mein India today, wahan hoti thi, used to look forward, used to wait for it. It's not like that anymore. I went to various investors. Now, Rashesh Shah told me, he said that there are no headwinds in your business. So it's true. I mean, you cannot run. So you have to be in a business where there is headwind. So I'll just leave it at that. I'm just saying that despite that, everything I am today is because I became an entrepreneur. I could only write Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish because I spent those 15 years running that business. When I went to meet people, I was going as one of them. And I knew the language to use when I'm talking to young people. I had not become corporatized. So I still think it's worth it. I'm saying you may not have the so-called desired outcome which puts you on some front page and says, yeah, you sold your company for so much or you did IPO. I didn't have that. But whatever I gained from it as a human being, I think, and whatever I gave during that period to people who were my readers and employees and, you know, I think I did my best for that period. And that's all that each of us can do.
Yeah. Brilliant. I think speaks a little bit about what resilience is, right? So you ran Jam for 15 years, then you had to shut it down, but still you found your true calling and your meaning and continued on that path. I'm still going through that path right now, right? So there is, Flatheads did not go well. We were forced to put a pause on it, and then the whole Shark Tank episode happened. Now we're trying to figure out whether it will resurrect or not. Jury is still out. We'll see. That's going on. But that entire journey of just closing down something that you have created with so much energy and passion, and blood and sweat, literally blood and sweat. It takes a lot out of you, right? And then after that, still staying on that path and trying to get up and run again, it still requires a lot of introspection. I'm still going through that right now. How do you do that?
Yeah,
Give me a
but
little.
You're not going to go back to a job, no? So then,
No, not
so then
happen.
what is the option?
Yeah, there's no plan B basically.
So I did start a second company, wo bhi nahi chali. Okay, that's another story. I won't go into the details because I think the problem we chose was wrong. I mean, it was called Bloody Good Book. It was a publishing platform where authors could come and upload the first 3 chapters of their book, and based on the popular feedback, the editors would then publish certain number of books. But the thing is, what we realized is that books hi koi nahi pad raha. That the problem is not that authors can't publish. The problem is on the reading end. We need more people to read books. As I said, every industry starts declining. Abhi books bhi log nahi pad rahe. Abhi 10 saal, 15 saal se, like now since OTT has come, That's a new problem. So anyways, during COVID, I thought I was forced to actually create some new skills. I started teaching writing online. I mean, I just started writing fiction actually, which I never did. I started teaching short story writing online because I had one employee and I didn't want to pay her salary from my pocket, basically. It's a very banya mindset, maybe. I thought, कि मैं अपनी pocket से क्यों दूँ? I should at least earn X amount. So to do that, I started doing this workshop, which became really popular. Now I've done about 60 of these workshops online, and now I do it for companies. I do it for institutions. Like storytelling became important. So I thought, okay, let me teach others this skill. I didn't even know I can do it. And in between, I also took over the publishing from my publisher because they were not doing a good job. I said, I can sell more books than you. So I just took the rights back. And by the way, that company shut down. It's called Westland. It was bought by Amazon, and after some 5 years of being with Amazon, they shut it down one day. So it was better I took the books back. And I did sell more than them. I had then, set up my own sales team. So I think that's the thing about being an entrepreneur. When you see the problem, instead of crying, you say, "ठीक है, मैं इसको solve कर दूँ." I can't sit and watch you not. There is demand for my books, you're not supplying. What can I do? Some colleges asking for it, you're saying it won't reach on time. I mean, they were so slow and inefficient in these matters. They just wanted to do the regular things. So I think that's what it means to be an entrepreneur, is that whenever you see an opportunity, you try to explore it.
Yeah.
You're not going to just let it go. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, absolutely. I think bias to action is something that drives us every day.
With flatheads, what's going on? It's like top secret, you can't tell us?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to know that only now.
So I don't know if you saw the latest LinkedIn post yesterday, but something big is happening, something is brewing. I'm under NDA, so I can't talk about it, but yes, it is coming back for sure. So that's the good news. The avatar is still TBD, so we'll figure that out.
What did you learn from this whole episode? Like, this is not the first startup you're doing. I think two or
No,
three.
I've done 3. Yeah.
So, obviously the first two, you had to pivot or do something. So now, what is your takeaway from these 3 experiences?
So, number one is, you can't time it. And if the macro situation is not great for you, you should do something, right? As you said, pivot. So, we should have been faster to pivot in retrospect, right? That is one big learning. In the last startup, we ran a mobile payments app called Momo. We were fast enough to pivot because we saw IMPS and UPI coming, and our business model of transaction revenue was going from whatever 2%, 2.5% to 0 because UPI was free. Immediately, we had to find a solution. And payment banks licenses were launched, and at that time there was, all the Maharathis like Vodafone and Airtel and Jio, all of them were entering payments. We said, either we scale up really quick in order to get at least on par with somebody who has unlimited money, or we shut down and move on, right? So we were quick to recognize it, we moved, and then we, got acquired by an e-commerce company, and then, integrated the payments into their tech stack very quickly. And I was running the merchant ecosystem where we were enabling digital payments, right, at the retail stores. So that, we were able to do it fast enough. In Flatheads, we did not do that fast enough, right? So I think that is one learning for sure. Second thing is everybody who is a B2C startup should go to Shark Tank. It doesn't matter because it is prime time television, 9 p.m. and it doesn't matter whether you get a deal or not. If you are getting that visibility, I don't see any entrepreneur who's going to say no to it, to be honest, right? What happens there is different, right?
Tell us inside uska thoda scope batao. Kya hota hai udhar? Is it all rigged or it's actually, in advance that they're going to give you money or not and you're acting there, or it's all like... Because they make you take many retakes, in this film business. They'll say, "Nahi, walk again, do this, do that." So is it like that?
No, it's not. I'll tell you my side, at least. Mine was completely legit. So there was a application process which happened in April. We got selected for the first round. You're supposed to give a video pitch and a written this thing. form, application form. Post that, there was an audition round. Every city has audition rounds, so we went to the Bangalore one, and we got selected, and then we had to go and pitch in Mumbai for the final this thing. I know a couple of sharks from before, and I'm pretty sure they did not know I was coming because I would have got a ping from them otherwise. So they only see it 15 minutes before when the stage is being set up, and that's when they get a dossier on what this company is about. So it was legit from my end.
Good to know that.
Yeah, but the 3-minute pitch that happens in the beginning, right? That is basically rehearsed, right? So you have to work for 3-4 days trying to make that happen. I talk more in English. Hindi mein bola tha wahan pe, right? So they made me rewrite the whole thing in Hindi and practice it for 3 days. I still stumbled there, so they had to retake once. But that 3 minutes is something that is made for TV, right? So you will see entrepreneurs going there and dancing. I have never seen an entrepreneur dance in an investor pitch otherwise, right? So you have to do funny things like that. But outside of that, so immediately after that, the pitch actually went on for about 1 hour 45 minutes. What you see is 15 minutes of condensed version of that, right? So typically, average pitches go anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour, right? And every one of the sharks have their own investment team who will do diligence after the episode is done, right? And then the money comes in. It's not a guarantee that you will get the money because they have committed on TV, right? So that's the process. At least for me, it was legit. And all the people that I was with during that time
we have
was
heard
legit.
it's legit only, but we still wanted to hear from you directly. But then you became more famous for what you did, what you said.
Yeah, my intention was not to cry on national TV when I went in. But yeah, it just so happened,
Yeah,
right?
I understand. Yeah.
The funny part was...
That's why it's called reality TV, no? They wait for such moments.
Yeah.
That's what it's designed
Yeah,
for.
that was funny. When that happened, right? As soon as I walked out, the entire Sony crew suddenly was in attention, right? Other pitches were happening before that. They are like, "Haan, theek hai, pitch ho gaya." They'll do the, post this thing, feedback and question answer, and then they will move. When I walked out, everybody was there, right? They are like, "Boss, this is going to go viral. We know this. We're going to make this a story." So then after that, there was like 2 hours of footage that they shot and all that stuff. I don't know what they're doing with it, but yeah, there was a whole thing that happened after that. They interviewed the shark saying, "Aapka experience kaisa raha?" All that stuff. So so Sony knows when to catch drama, right?
But I think what Shark Tank has done is they've taken it to all the parents. So I just interviewed one entrepreneur in the morning for one of my future books, and he said, "Abhi finally my parents understood equity kya hota hai. Abhi wo bhi Shark Tank dekhte, abhi meri dadi bhi Shark Tank dekh rahi hai." So it's like, it's taken all this, you don't have to explain that much anymore ki main kya kar raha hu.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's dinner table conversation. It's also a lot of corporate water cooler conversation. Huh? Now, a lot of people are saying, "Yaar, chal startup karte hain." I think that spark has come out now. That is mainstream, right? It's interesting. I just got a call from one of the HUL bosses. He's like, "Arey, I'm so inspired. I have been always wanting to get out and do my own thing. आपसे बात करना है. मैं अगले हफ्ते quit कर रहा हूँ." मैं बोला, "यार रुक जा." थोड़ा बात करते हैं, then we'll figure this out. But it has become mainstream for sure. The other experience that I have had there is the sharks themselves, right? While they were doing their TV act in the first half of the conversation, halfway through it shifted to, "Yaar, मैं भी entrepreneur था, I have also gone through this. I have seen the struggle, and I am seeing what is happening with you." So it became two entrepreneurs talking to each other, right? So it was a very different conversation halfway through the session. I think that resonated a lot more. At the end of the day, I think everybody has gone through their struggles, right?
Yeah,
So,
I mean, that's why, see, like my book, Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish, which became a so-called bestseller, like people ask me, how did you do? I said, I don't know, because first of all, we were only going to print 1,000 copies and distribute at one event in IMM. There was something like this. There was an event in 2008. So it was that kind of a book. It was not even supposed to be released in the market. But because I was doing it and my name was on the book, I still wanted to do the, to write a book that I'm proud of writing, which I would like to read. So I wrote the book my way, which I will say there's an element of entrepreneurship there, because I don't know what they were expecting, but when they read it first, they were like a bit shocked because it didn't read like a business book. It's like a story book, or it was too simple. Like it didn't have any management jargon. They even wanted me to add a page with all the milestones of the company and all. I said, "Nahi, wo." I knew it will spoil my book, so I just said, "No, there's no time. We can't do it just now. Anyways, you just want to release 1,000 copies." So we went ahead. And I think that zid is what, like, you know, any entrepreneur, any person who's a creator has to have. You can't succumb to like, wo keh rahe to wo ye change kar do, wo, you know, this movie Andhadhun. When they did a screening of this movie, many people couldn't understand the end. They were like, kya hua? So the company, the producer, Viacom 18, they told the director ki end badal do, kuch log ko samajh nahi raha hai. He said, no, I can't change. It's meant to be like this only. And that's the reason that movie became a hit, because people were still talking about it 2 days later or asking their friends, right? And they were not so dumb. I mean, it could either be A or B or C. Like, okay, whatever it is, it didn't spoil their enjoyment of the movie.
Yeah.
So you have to be, I think, in terms of the product, sometimes a little bit, you can't just succumb to your investor or your every customer ka baat nahi sun sakte ho. You have to have clarity that you can't reach everyone. I still get emails from people saying, you don't write books in English, because my books have some Hindi in them, right? So especially from South India, I do get these kind of emails. But it's okay, because 95% of the people like my books for that reason, because they have a bit of English in them. So you can't please all the people all the time, right? When you're making a shoe design, you can't please everyone.
Oh yeah,
you
absolutely.
have to like decide, okay, this is what I think. Over time, you can have some variations, but you have to have the clarity of what you're doing, why you're doing it. So I think that's one of the things that entrepreneurs do. They have a clarity. Wherever you are, I mean, you know what you want, and you may be wrong also. It could have failed, my book could have failed, but then it would have been better to still do it my way and fail rather than do it their way and fail. Right? So,
Nice.
yeah.
For me, I honestly think our decisions are made, most of the decisions are made because we don't have a choice, right? Yes, we could have launched women's wear and kids wear and men's footwear at one time. By the way, you know, every woman wants 7 colors, right? Minimum. Or dikhao is the standard thing, right? But yeah, you don't have the money. What are you going to do, right? So focus, like it or not, happens because there are constraints of time, money, resources, all those things, right?
You know, constraints are good. So that's the thing. The first book I was told you have to feature 25 people from IIM Ahmedabad. मतलब इतना सा box में ही मुझे लोगों को लेना था. But I still, within that, I said, okay, I want different kinds of people.
Yeah.
They gave me a few names, and other people, I said, I want different kinds of people. So in fact, the last section of the book is called Alternate Vision. It has people who are different. There's a social entrepreneur. There's somebody who says, I don't want to grow big. Because I felt that everyone can't be like that, oh, I grew my company 100 crore, 100 crore. Boring ho jayega pura book. And many people start at the same place, but they don't, you know, everyone doesn't achieve the same so-called success in the conventional term, but that doesn't mean the journey is not interesting. So I've never used that as a criteria. So, you know, sometimes I feel within a box, you can be actually more creative because you know these are the boundaries. Now, within this, you have to be creative. Yeah. If someone told me, interview any 25 entrepreneurs from entire India, I might have just sat for days thinking, kisko loon, kisko loon, kisko loon. So that's why every book I read has a theme, so that everyone is kind of like in a box, and within the box, I try to achieve as much diversity as possible. Yeah. Okay, we can go on chatting like this, but I don't know like how long we are supposed to talk. We are just going on. Does anyone have any questions? Do you have anything you want to say? Any last pieces of advice?
I hope you've got a little bit of a flavor of entrepreneurship from the two of us. I'm sure all of you are going through your own journeys in one way or another, but yeah, open to question and answers, yeah. Thank you. Yes.
Mic never works in any place.
I just want to start with saying I read your book, Stay Hungry, Stay Foolish. It was so beautifully written, and it really, I think it gave a hope to a lot of us to start our own venture. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Ganesh, I was one of those people who watched your Shark Tank show, and I love that you cried. You really brought vulnerability, and you showed the real struggles of being an entrepreneur. So thank you for doing that. Thank you to both of you. So just a note of thanks.
Thank you both for sharing your journeys, and a lot of it resonates with many of us. And our incubation at IIM Bangalore results came during the Shark Tank. And as you said, it has taken it to the kids. My 9-year-old says, Mama, you'll be on Shark Tank soon. For him, incubation meant Shark Tank. That was the impact that Shark Tank has brought. Thank you so much, Ganesh, for breaking the stereotypes. I raised 2 boys, and now I can proudly say that boys too cry, and that helps.
Hi, I'm Ashish. I represent a startup called Make My Garden. And Rashmi, I have read multiple of your books, really enjoyed. So my question for you is, what kind of spice do you need in my story to get it published in one of your next books?
Yeah, we'll meet after the break and talk about it.
Saturday date?
Sure, I'm always looking for stories. Actually, I'm writing part 2 of all my books. So Arise Awake 2, Connect the Dots 2. The same theme, but a new set of people, because, in these 5 to 10 years, a lot has changed. So I just want to capture that, what kind of new businesses are happening, or, that's the thought process.
Okay, we'll certainly meet. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, funny that you say that Boys Do Cry is a new realization that you've come up with. Yeah, Dilip Kumar, right? Manoj Kumar, then Amitabh Bachchan, everybody has been crying on so long.
And sorry, those are movies. You are a real person who's crying, and that too in a business situation. So that's different. वो उनका crying अलग है.
Hello.
No, the whole point is that entrepreneurship journey has emotion. I think that's the only thing what I wanted to capture in my books were that it's not a case study. Case studies are so boring. I don't know if you all read case studies with any interest. I never read. वो जबरदस्ती पढ़ना पड़ा while we were studying. But in that everything is so like, it's scrubbed off totally of emotion, and plus it's as if everything is so logical. Everything is based on marketing and whatever, like, where is that human being? Is he getting sleep in the night or not? Like, what are their parents saying? What are the internal issues they have? Like, I may be a person who looks very confident, but under se I'm always actually very anxious. So there are so many human elements which are just lost in that case study. It's just very, it's just one side of the brain. It's
Sterilized, I would say.
Sterilized,
Yeah.
yes. I did not want to write a case study. As I have grown up reading Amar Chitra Katha and all the, all the story books in the world. And I think we are a storytelling culture.
Yeah.
When I thought, like, if I write a book, first I thought, what if I write like 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, aisa kuch book. I said, no, I could not even read that book like after 2-3 chapters, because they have bullet points at the end of the chapter, like what you should take away. And I used to see people in flights are reading books, but carrying the book, they're not reading the book. They're just carrying it. It was like a status, or, I had to tell the boss, yeah, I also read these books, but they never read it, with a lot of involvement. So I feel we especially are a storytelling culture. Everything we've learned is through stories, whether we look at our Mahabharat, Ramayana, Panchatantra. We are a storytelling culture. We don't have like one book which we refer to like a, 10 commandments. We don't have that kind of mindset.
Ultimately, every person has their own story to tell, right? It's your own story that you're making, and everybody is an entrepreneur. You're the entrepreneur in your own career. That's your own business, right? And you are responsible for making decisions in that career. So yes, definitely. Unfortunately, the same aspect of it is also translated into the whole VC ecosystem and the startup growth ecosystem as well, because ultimately
Your story is more important.
No. The sterile version of the, what the Excel sheet says and what the, what the growth trajectory is. What you don't see is the what the will of and the passion of the entrepreneur is. I don't know. You can prove me wrong, but I see a lot more of Excel sheets and PPTs than, emotions in that journey as well. That's probably because all of them are also IIT IIM graduates only. No, so honestly, it is hype, right? At the end of the day, whatever the media is publishing is the masala that goes on, right? I mean, do you live your life like the movies? You don't, right? So, what you see in the media is the most, masala version of what's going on in the startup ecosystem. If you are passionate about something and if you want to do entrepreneurship, go and do it. If you want to go and chase growth, you can. And I have chased growth, which takes a lot of capital, and for that you will go and give your equity to somebody else. A lot of people choose not to do that, right? A lot of people are building sustainable businesses, and as you said, even that chai tapri outside is running his own business, and he is happy doing it, right? So it is your own thought of what your ambition is and what you want to make out of your creation. I don't think the joy has gone out. I just think that people read too much into the hype and think that just because there was one Flipkart who made this and Sachin Bansal is the god of the startup ecosystem, every IIM guy can do this. Well, guess what? Life doesn't work like that. So as long as you're passionate about it and you want to do it, that should be the reason to do it, and not कि मुझे unicorn बनाना है. That outcome is not controlled by you anyway, right? Why do you even chase an outcome that you cannot control? That's my thought, at least my perspective. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I had many opportunities to get different kinds of investors, right? In the first 3 years, during the first .com boom, somebody wanted to buy us out, but then we said, no, हम अपने आप उसको करेंगे, grow करेंगे. Then afterwards, we got a term sheet again in 2007, in which everything was looking so painful. Like, they said, whatever numbers you've given in your business plan, you have to achieve, otherwise company will come to us. इतना सब मेहनत करके, maybe we would have got a little more money in our pocket. But then we said, you know what? We don't want to work like this with this, like with this gun on our head. So we said no. And yeah, ultimately we couldn't sustain the company. But then, I mean, that's okay. I don't know, you do what you think is right. I did run a bootstrap company for 15 years. The second one also I decided I don't want to take money in the beginning from anyone. I want to see if that business model works. And I think that gave me a lot of freedom, because when it didn't work, I didn't answer to anyone else. I didn't feel guilty that, I have to bow to your money. I don't know, somehow I'm still of a little old-fashioned mindset, even though they're not giving their personal money, but I feel a little bit of obligation कि किसी ने मुझे पैसे दिए हैं, तो I should give them a return. I don't know, maybe that's what I'm very ancient or something, like I'm a fossil or something like that. But I sleep well at night, okay? I don't own one piece of property in this world today. And I don't need it. I mean, I have a good life. I have freedom. See, I have freedom. For me, freedom matters a lot. And I think that's the biggest thing that I want. And having this kind of an investor sitting on my head all the time would not make me free. I think the second term sheet also came with the thing that I have to be with the company for 5 years, blah, 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 blah. I said, "Arey, ye kya hai? Matlab, you can't like put so many terms on us. You're buying something if you see the value in it, but you can't make it so one-sided. So that's what I didn't like. Maybe I didn't meet the right person, Maybe there are investors.
All the term sheets are like that. So.
So maybe I just read the clauses too carefully. अगर मैं छोड़ के चली जाती, वो लोग क्या कर लेते? And they also said I can't write books, and I don't know, things like, you have to focus all your time on the company, and I'm like, ऐसे थोड़ी होता है. You can't restrain a creative person and say you just sit in this cage. So I guess I lost some money, right? In the end, I ended up paying money to pay off our outstanding. We had been printing for a while without getting enough inflow and all that. So I had to break my own fixed deposits and pay off State Bank of India, whatever they had given us, some 10 lakhs ka, some lallu sa kuch, matlab whatever 20-25 lakh, jo bhi hamara outstanding tha, I said I want to pay it and start my life again. Yeah. I don't want to be hanging. So I think it's just your choice what kind of life you want to live. It's not that I didn't want to grow my company, but you see, I had a chance at one point. We had exposed this guy called Arindam Chaudhary, who used to run IIPM, Dare to Dream Beyond IIMs. We wrote an article about him after researching for 3 months. Then he harassed us a lot. He wanted to sue us, blah, blah, blah. Now, rather than writing an article, I could have just gone to him and said, give me 2-4 crore, de do mere ko. Okay. And like him, there were many other jokers, whom I could have just done that with. But that did not suit my conscience. I mean, if I'm going to send students to study at a place which is a substandard university, I don't want money based on that. And in my industry, it became like that. You take money from people to not print stories, or you print, like you write good things about them if they're not so good. So I didn't want to be in that situation.
Yeah.
And I'm happy about it. I mean, yeah, I wish I could come and say I sold my company for 50 crores or something, but how would my life be different if I'd done that? Really.
No, fulfillment more than monetary aspects or.
But I still want to make money. I'm not saying no. I still have time.
No. So I'm not saying that you don't want to make money. I'm saying what is more important to you, right? Autonomy,
Yeah,
being
I think
happy.
you have to see what's
peace
the
of mind.
trade-off. Like if you're willing to
Yeah.
be having these restrictions, but it gives you a whole lot of growth, and you're willing to make the trade-off, that's great. But it depends on each person.
I want to just leave with one thought here. I want to say, boss, we are stuck to the rat race too much, right? तुम आईआईटी में घुसे हो, आईआईएम में घुसे हो तो फाइट मारना तो सीख गए हो, उसके बाद फाइट मारते रहना है, right? Why? खुश रहो ना यार. I think there's time for one more question. Whoever is asking.
May I? Do you think about retirement?
I think he's there. Yeah.
Do you think about retirement?
A writer cannot retire ever. Yeah, come on. No, I just think that I have to write for new mediums. I want to write for screen, for OTT. I did some screenwriting course during COVID. I wrote a feature film script. I've not managed to sell that yet. I'm trying to write one OTT serial also. But recently, just yesterday, I saw that Writers Guild of America is on strike because they are protesting use of chat GPT. So I don't know, before I enter the industry, only ye to industry. Yeah, but I don't know what will happen with this chat GPT coming in. Shoes ko to nahi affect karega, so people will still need shoes. But I don't know if people will need writers, but I'll still write for my own pleasure.
Retirement? I don't know, yaar. My dad is getting pension. I'm not, so as long as I enjoy doing something, I'll continue to do it. I don't think there is a concept of formal retirement anymore. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think people come first, right? They should always come first. But it goes both ways. I mean, I would say that one of the sad experiences of running this jam was that I had so much turnover of people working for me. They were all young people, so they all, probably had very big ambitions. And, we would constantly, I was running a training school. Later on, I thought I should have called it media training school, and I should have asked them to pay me money to learn from me. Because people would actually, like the editor of Midday would say that, you know what, if I see jam on the biodata, I just take the person, I know they're already very good. I said, yeah, thanks. So it's both ways. It's actually, it used to hurt me when every time when somebody would just leave without notice. During .com boom, my daughter was born, 1999. And I didn't have any maternity leave. Within 15 days, I came back to the office for 3-4 hours a day. I used to leave her with my mother. And at that time, three people left my team, like they were like stolen by these .com people for 3 times the salary or something. It was, that's also when people don't think of the humanity of the other side of the founder. Hum bhi to human beings hai. So I have that view that it has to be both ways. Obviously we should treat you well, but you should also treat us well, right? If you just leave without notice and like we have this 15-day deadline, we have to produce a magazine. I have to sit there without, I have to sit there till 2 in the morning doing your work. So that's my view, that it should be both ways. I
think the world of brands is only about expression and stories. I mean, she's the queen of stories, so she knows how to do that well. But honestly, other than, if there are no stories, everything is a commodity, right? It's just, what is the emotional connection to whatever you are, possessing, whatever you're aspiring to? All that is emotion. All that is, expression. And if brands don't do that, ultimately they are, kirana shop, open selling, products at the end of the day. So everything here, right? Whatever people are making, whatever people are creating out there, has a story behind it, and that is exactly what the brand embodies, right? Like it or not, the founders, thoughts, feelings, emotions are part of the brand story itself, right? I cannot create a brand that is completely different from what I am as a person, right? So it is, like it or not, it is embedded into whatever we do. So it is integral of in whatever you're creating. So thank you.